Welcome to Dad Talk Today. The podcast for dads facing some of the toughest moments of their lives. We are here to walk with men through divorce, keep them connected to their kids, help them understand their rights, and work for change in family law courts. Moms, you are always welcome too. We are all about advocating for shared parenting and doing what is best for our kids. Here is your host, Eric Carroll.
Everybody, welcome back to Dad Talk Today. We have an exciting episode lined up for you. There is a movie that came out this holiday season that has taken the nation by storm, and we have the inspiration behind the movie. Here with us today, we're joined back with John Gallman. I want to welcome to the show, though, Mr. Ray Mcelrathbey. What's going on, Ray?
How you doing?
What has it been like this holiday season, man? This movie coming out and seeing your life story on there, you and what you went through with your brother, and now everybody knows out in public what it was you was going through.
I mean, it's mixed feelings because simply because I'm a super empathetic person. So a lot of the times I feel how I guess the people around me feel, and society as a whole is not doing its best. So it's you gotta take the good with the bad. But I'm excited about the things that's going on in my life. But there's some other larger looming issues in the world that are kind of depressing the entire thing, with COVID and all the things that's happening. So outside of, that, I'm wonderful.
There you go, brother. So I want to get to some other parts of this as we was talking, Ray, and there's a lot of things that the movie left out. Your life leading up to that, you had brothers and sisters, and I don't think that was mentioned too much about your siblings in the movie. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about what the movie was about. I know you had started your football career over there at Clemson. Your mom had to go to rehab, and your brother was about to be put up for adoption. I'm going to let you tell a little bit about what the movie was inspired about.
Well, to go off script a little bit. Now, my mom, she wasn't arrested, and so she didn't have to go to mandatory rehab. But she was using crack cocaine at the time. And they were struggling. They were living, as opposed to Atlanta, they were living in Las Vegas, not too far from the Strip, and in a weekly motel when Fahmarr came to visit me in Clemson. And he didn't want to return back to his circumstances. But he was in Clemson for like a month and a half, 2 months. And he was just supposed to be visiting because it was the summertime. And once the summer was over, he was supposed to be returning back home, but he told me he didn't want to go back. And initially, I blew him off. I'm like, whatever. All right. So when I'll get you a plane ticket within a week or so. And he was like, no, I don't want to go back. I really don't want to go back. I'm like, well, you either go back or you go to foster care. And he was like, I'd rather go to foster care. And it threw me a little bit. I'm like, wow. So, because much as I knew the circumstances with my parents wasn't the greatest circumstances, it never made me decide to go to foster care, even consider it. I always wanted to stay with them regardless. But he didn't feel that way. And so, which opened my eyes to maybe his circumstances are a little bit different than mine. And then I guess I'm built different as well. But he didn't want to go back. And so I consulted a couple of my mentors about possibly keeping him up there, about possibly keeping him. One of my mentors, a gentleman named Tyrone Hill, who's one of my greatest mentors, one of my greatest friends, God rest his soul. But he cussed me out because at the time, Tyrone was taking care of me in a sense. Like he, sent me to college with the care package. He was paying my cell phone bill. He had always been looking out for me, so he knew I didn't have the means to necessarily take care of a child the way I would need to. And so Fahmarr didn't want to return back to Las Vegas with my parents, and I had been through similar situations with my parents, but I never wanted to go to foster care. But he did. So like I said, I talked to my mentor. He cussed me out. He told me, there's no way you should be doing this. You're a college student. You're playing football. And he was paying my cell phone bill at the time, so he knew I had no means to do anything well as far as taking care of kids is concerned. And so I went to another mentor, a gentleman named John Bell, and he told him about my situation. He was like, well, you know, you probably won't be any worse than your parents. So, because he never factored in the whole Clemson part.
Right.
Tyrone had played football at Clemson, so he knew what my schedule was like. He knew what being a student athlete was like. So he kind of took that into account and was like, when would you be able to raise a kid? Where John was like, I mean, you're capable. You've been through a lot, and what's the worst case? You can do better than your parents, possibly. And so, I mean, with both of their advice, I just decided to do it. I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna try it. It was going well for a while. I mean, because I was on meal plan, and then I had my housing taken care of because I was a scholarship athlete. So the major things that I typically would worry about in life were taken care of. And so I was like, it was a easy transition for the most part, because if there was no food, or if I couldn't afford food, I have a meal plan. I just go in the calf, grab some, come out the calf with it. Wouldn't be no big deal. And then early on, when he was around, everybody knew he was there, so it was almost like they welcomed him as well. It wasn't until like it was possible time for him to be going back, and when he wasn't going back, that I kind of kept him away from everybody, or hid him in a sense. My teammates knew he was there, some of them, but then for the most part, my coaches didn't know he was staying full time.
Right.
Because everybody really didn't find out till the story broke in the Charleston Post Courier that Fahmarr was staying full time. Well, some of my teammates told the reporter Larry Williams, because he was just like, who's this extra kid? And that's Ray brothers. He's staying with Ray is what they told him. He's staying with Ray. And Larry wanted to get like a better idea about what that. And so after I tell it, one day after practice, Larry came to me, wanted to talk to me for 10 minutes after the next practice. And the next practice came, we met, and 10 minutes turned into 3 hours. And then we met the next day for another 3 hours. And basically I was kind of just running them down my story and how I came to where I was, and how did I came to having my brother.
So I think that's interesting, man, because you kind of took on that father role, and inside of the movie, it doesn't mention your father much. And I believe that's the part of the story that made you who you are. There was a lot, and I know we connected over the topic of adverse childhood experiences when we was talking earlier this week. Let's talk a little bit about that. For anybody that was watching, fatherlessness is such a huge issue. They might think, well, dad just up and left and he didn't have anything to do and you had to take care of your younger brother. What's the story behind that, Ray?
No. And this is, I guess, one of the parts of my story I want to set the record straight. And this is basically a part of my life I wanted to set the record straight on. Because with my father, it wasn't that he was just an absentee dad or he wasn't there. Because early on in my life, really early on, my dad was my everything. He was, he smoked Newports and drank Bud Light. And I wanted to smoke Newports and drink Bud Light because my dad did. He delivered papers for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And as far as I've known, and long as I've known him, he's always had a job. And so he's not like a dad beat dad. And he was always there for me early on. Now, with the situation with my mother and her smoking crack. Now, my dad stayed with my mom for decades through her addiction.
Yep.
And, it wasn't that he just up and got the hell on one day. Even with my situation with him not taking care of me, it was one of the situations where I created the conflict with his new girlfriend. And so, because once he stops being in my family, as I would say, he moved with his new girlfriend. And for me, it was him breaking up the family, and I resented him for that. And not even thinking about his circumstances, because I always would say that mom could mess up 1,000,000 times, but dad only got once, and we're gonna crucify him. There's almost no coming back. But it wasn't even a situation which he just left me. I was raised by my coaches growing up, and one of the reasons I was raised by my coaches is because of my conflicts with my dad's girlfriend. Um, when I was a kid, and like I moved with my dad when my mom actually went to rehab, and I stayed with my dad. It was just me and him. We did a bunch of things together. He used to take me to work and deliver papers with him. We used to have like this tradition where we went to Waffle House and listen to old school music
Gotta
while we
love Waffle House, man.
yeah. And so there was like various childhood memories I have of my dad
Yeah.
that didn't make the movie or was just kind of left out because of whatever reason. But going back to my father, um, I didn't know his struggle. I didn't know how he came up. I don't know what he went through as a young man. He became my father at 23. And my mother already had two kids, and he fathered those two kids as well as myself. So these are not, I say all this to say that these are not attributes you get from an ancient father. This is not something that dad be dads do. And he fathered every kid that my mom had. And they can call him dad just as if, he was their biological father. He was always there in that sense. But, one of the things I think made him leave is the fact that, like, my mom with her habit could could end up selling everything in the house. We call it a fire sale because there'd be days she'll be just with shopping for food. Um, we'll have TVs or something like that. We'll have valuables, but then one day, not sure when, it could happen any day, but one particular day, she'll just sell everything in the night. And so my dad would leave home, and life would be great. I mean, he got all the things he need. We have all the things we need. Yeah, but then he'll come home that night to nothing, and like to have to deal with that and stay with someone through it. Like I wouldn't have stayed, but it wouldn't have took me but a week. We would have been done. I would have been on my way somewhere. But he stayed for more than a decade, and he was in my life even then. And then when he moved with his girlfriend, and I was forced to go with them, I would say forced because I couldn't live with my mom because of her addiction, and it was the only other option. I resented her too. I couldn't stand that lady. I used to take her cigarettes and throw them out. I used to steal jewelry from her and not to do anything particular with it, just so she wouldn't have it.
Right.
And so I wasn't necessarily the greatest kid either. I didn't make the situation great. So before my dad was out of my life, like I was doing stuff to make it so, to make it almost an impossible situation for him to continue to be with her and have me around at the same time because I wasn't letting us live in the same household under like uh, any type of order.
I'm
And
I'm curious real quick though, Ray. How do you view that? Like, if you can think back to those teenage years when you were going through that, or your childhood years, what was your feelings then versus as you've gotten older now and you can look on it? Was there a lot more resentment when you was a child, and then you learned to kind of step out of the situation and say,
oh, I mean,
that couldn't have been easy for my dad? I mean, what was the differences between those years of growing up?
as a kid, I couldn't stand nobody. Like I was pissed at
Right.
everybody. I made myself the victim. Um, and so everything that happened, I blamed everybody else for all the things that went down. As a grown up, it wasn't until like hell when I first got Fahmarr that I started to kind of understand some of my dad's issues and what issues there could be. Now, my main one, like he's a very prideful man, even myself, like because that's what like my last name, Mcelrathbey. And my dad used to always say, where there's a bay, there's a way. And
There
so,
you go. I like that.
and so we were very prideful, and he was very prideful. But one of the things that bothered the hell out of me when I first got Fahmarr was the feeling of inadequacy and not being able to provide the things that I felt was necessary for him to survive. And he wasn't my kid. Like it wasn't my responsibility to do that. And it was all by I volunteered for that responsibility, but at the same time, it ate at me that I couldn't do it in the manner in which I wanted to do just because my funds were low, and when I was, I guess, ill-equipped to be a dad at that moment because there was no class before I jumped in it. It was like, well, today you brother, tomorrow you dad, like.
There
And
you
so,
go.
um,
Yeah.
but like a lot of the things that I learned from my father, like, because one of the main things I did take away from my father that I resented him for a long time was just time spent. Because that was one of the things where as a kid, more so than providing anything for me or buying me any shoes or clothes or toys or anything like that, if you were there, like that was big. And I learned how to just kind of deal with the bare minimum. Like I can take small victories in most places. Not that you showed up, but did you call? And those things, as I grew up, became more important. But like I said, it wasn't until I was older, and so I went through teenage years pissed. Early on in college, like I was pissed. It wasn't till my dad passed, unfortunately, that I had the realization that I'm at now,
Oh
because I
wow.
couldn't have those conversations. But it took me to, like, I have a son now who's 7, and with my son, it's I feel it now. I feel what being a dad is. What this is my kid, and the way I feel about my son. Um, I don't know if there's another feeling out there, but it's a situation where I knew my dad loved me. I can remember the times he told me. He only told me 3 times, but I remember every time he did.
Hey Ray, I just want to ask you. Well, first of all, let me say this. I'm gonna say it right. Ray Mcelrathbey. I got it, didn't I?
Hey, yes, yes,
Bay.
that's
Where
good.
there's a bay,
Well,
there's a way. I got it now.
where there's a bay, there's a way, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to my kids, and they've already watched the movie multiple times. And I was talking to my kids. I said, "Hey, is there something you want me to ask Ray Ray?" And my son said, "Daddy, just don't get him confused with Ray McLeod." I said, "Well, son, I'm not going to do that because Ray McElrath, he's the one that set the stage for what's going on at Clemson now." So I appreciate all you've done and all the hard work you've done. But I want to ask you about this, man, because I know that you're helping people today, and I know that our past does not define us, but it certainly our origin and where we come from makes a big difference. Francis Schaeffer said, "Where we begin will determine where we end." And man, I know that you found a place of peace. I know you found a place of redemption, and I believe you found a place of forgiveness. And when we look back and hindsight helps us to understand that, you know, have perspective on where we come from. And you've talked about the realization that you had about where your father may have come from and what he had to go through and how hard he worked. I tell my children all the time, reality is our friend. We can adjust our lives to fit the truth. And when we adjust our lives to fit the truth, we'll find freedom. So tell me a little bit about how you found freedom coming from where you came from.
Freedom coming from where I came from. Okay, well, freedom for me now is I find it in the Will Smith quote. In order for me to be free, I have to be me. And so a lot of people, not just myself, but a lot of us move through life wearing masks, trying to fit in, trying not to be ourselves when all we can be is ourselves. That's the only person that we can manage and successfully task with being ourselves is us.
Yeah.
And so for freedom for me, I struggle with it simply because I don't feel as free as I need to be at this current moment. And that's because there's regret in my life because there's a lot of things I didn't get to say to my father. There's a lot of things I needed to clear up to say that I did understand, but I didn't understand at the time. And
Isn't it weird how after they pass, you think of all those things? I wish I could say I lost my dad back in 2013. And I think every single day, man, I wish he was here so I could have said this or that he could have saw me do this. That definitely brings a different perspective on things.
most definitely. But see, with me, I'm having issues simply because we're in this moment. I'm celebrated. A lot of things in my life are looked upon as not so great. But there's so many great parts of my life. There's so many great parts in my life. Like my mom went through a whole movie as an addict. She's much more than an addict. my dad went through a movie as a dad beat, but that's far from the truth. And so I guess with me, there's those mixed feelings because of those things, like because where I'm highlighting myself in this situation, there's things about my family that are left not clear, or to for some to believe that was something might be wrong with these people, and it couldn't be further away from the truth.
Well, so there's an interesting perspective. You was talking about your dad a while ago, and we was talking about how you can look back now and see what he went through, and you can kind of relate in a little bit different way that there's years. Now, here you are, the movies went public. One of the main focuses on that movie is your mom and her addiction. That's still your mom, and no matter what, I'm sure you love her with every bit of your heart. And it was an unfortunate situation, but what's that like, knowing this person that I love that gave birth to me? She's became the focus of this film. And what's that forgiveness been like? I know there's got to be a lot of emotions tied to that.
Oh man, well, for me, the forgiveness part happened a long time ago, simply because of the opportunities I was able to have once I left my parents from the people that I met. There are some detriments to that with me leaving my parents. Like, I have some abandonment issues. I have some vulnerability issues. I've had my own addiction issues, but I've overall I can find a bunch of wins where I had some losses, and so I can look back on what I went through um, as great as it was necessary in order for me to get to the place that I am at now. Those things were necessary, and before that, it was the birth of my son. So whatever happened leading up to the birth of my son had to happen, because if those things didn't happen, then I wouldn't have my son. And so it let me let go of a lot of things that I possibly regretted before the age of 27, which is when I had my son. Um, so everything that happened before 27, I've always been able, especially since I've had my son, to kind of just wash away. Like, if I didn't make it to the league, well, if I would have made it to the NFL, I wouldn't have my son. And so those not two, they're not tradable. Like, I can give a damn about the NFL as far as my son is concerned. Um,
That's awesome.
so it was that. So a lot of times my coping mechanism has been my success. Like, me being kicked out of elementary school might have been one of the worst things that could ever happen to a kid during their early childhood. You getting kicked out of elementary school, and you know that's the beginning learning phase. So how you gonna go to middle school and high school if you didn't learn what you need to learn in elementary school? Well, me getting kicked out of elementary school was one of the better things that ever happened to me, because I went from a 25 to 30 kids in the class to one. It was just me. And so I had one teacher, one-on-one learning for a year and a half. And so where something that could have been looked at as like one of the detriments of my life ended up being one of the better things that ever happened to me, because educational wise, I was way ahead that I needed to be by the time I got out of my alternative school. Um, so I guess to come back to what we were talking about with my mom and my family, I told them, and I didn't even know the depths of what this would bring. I told them that everybody will be looking at you all now. Everybody will go check your pages. Everybody want to see what you're up to. And for some people, that's okay. But like, if you're in pain, if you're not where you want to be in life, that's it's a burden, because now everybody gets to see you, and but you're not where you want to be, and nobody wants to be seen in their pain. That's why guys get in like find like beef or fight over being staring at each other, because some people think you see them in their pain, and nobody wants you to stare at them while they're in their pain, and a lot of people are in pain.
That's deep, man.
Um, so it's a good and a bad thing, because I'm not sure they're ready to work through their things. Whereas I'm in a place where I can speak about them. I'm in a better position than I was when I came up. Their whole movies is celebrating me, so it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, the attention is great, but but it's not the case for them. Like, because at Fahmarr's age, at 25, I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. But then now everybody's asking, what are you doing now? Like, what do you want to do? Like, how's life for you? Like, what's so great? What's great about you? And if you don't have a whole bunch of things to piggyback on, then you might feel inadequate. But for me, like, I can find peace in survival story. Like, look what I made it through. And I try to tell them the same thing, but they're still in it. And so it's different when you're on the other side of it, and you can be like, okay, I've been through this and this and this. But when you're going through it, it's hard to look outside of your problems, like, because you got issues right now that you got to deal with. And then one of my issues with my mom, like, yeah, she got to deal with the fact that she's the world's most famous addict right now.
That's interesting, man, because I went through many different trials, and I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast when I was younger. I went through drug addiction. I was molested as a child. I went through a really bad divorce, been cheated on, numerous things. And I started trying to fill those voids with success. I started getting in like the music industry. I was working with big bands. I was working with celebrities and stuff. And no matter what I did, I needed more of it, and I had to constantly try to be topping myself. Well, when that didn't do it, and then I started turning to drugs, prescription pain medication. They made me feel good. The next day, I needed it again because I was trying to fill my voids with that success. And I just realized how deep you've analyzed that when you was talking about that and filling those voids with the success that you've got coming. When was it that you realized that? And is it therapeutic to see your story out there? I mean, is the pain completely worked through? Is that a process that you're still working on?
It's a process that I'm still working on.
Right.
I've done several interviews where I've cried, just dealing with the guilt of me and my dad's situation and not being able to fix that. And it makes me emotional now, even because it's still something I'm working through. It's and it pisses me off a little bit because I'm not perfect. uh, and I know myself. I know all the secrets. and if everybody else knew every secret, I might not be seeing in the world's greatest light either. But my dad, like, I didn't know none of his story, but I was treating him like I did. And it's a lot. And I wasn't. I'm probably still not ready or not equipped enough to really psychoanalyze myself. But I have to work through a bunch of things backwards. And so I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it, because with me telling my story, with me sharing all these different things about me, I'm learning that I got some stuff I still need to work through. Um, I mean, I go back and forth. And when you were just talking about, filling the voids with success, there's still voids that I've yet to fill. I haven't found that thing, or I guess what exactly it is to figure it out. And that's one of the things that, even going back to ACEs,
Yeah.
that makes, figuring out that childhood trauma, to figure out what things started, to possibly work backwards to try to fix them, and to know where you're at as far as the aces are concerned. Like, know your score, just figuring out your score, one, and then figuring out what triggers or what things happen because of your score. So because you were abused when you were younger, so what effects did that typically have on growing adults? And then kind of checklist yourself. So if it typically causes high anxiety levels, procrastination, this, that, and the other, then you need to start going down that list and checking things off. Like, well, where am I at with this? Where am I at with this? Because you don't necessarily have to be the smartest person, but like, figuring out yourself would be like, is a therapeutic thing that I've done in my life. Like, and then just the vulnerability of just telling my story and being honest about what I'm going through is very helpful. But as you know, as men, we don't have a whole bunch of people that we run and talk to until that we feeling like shit, or that I just want to cry today. I don't want to do nothing but cry today. and we have days like that, and we can't kind of wallow in that emotion. And now that I think about it, I wonder how many days like that my dad had, because where I have these things that I can win with. I go play ball every day. I can win the game every day, and I don't necessarily have the burdens of a family. Not that families are a burden, but the responsibilities that come with having a family could be burdensome if you can't handle them. And so, but like what was his out? Because I have mine, and they haven't always been the best things. But what was his? And like I said, my dad had me at 23, and so what the hell was he doing at 23? And what would I've been ready to do at 23? And um that's one of the things that I tell Fahmarr about, what the blessing that he's been to me. Because a lot of times Fahmarr has trouble seeing his part in the story, where he can be celebrated or where he should celebrate, because as far as he's concerned, it was all me. Well, you decided to get me, and because you were in school and you played football, they did the story. But that's further away from the case as far as I'm concerned, because I mean, you're my brother. You allowed me to be your parent. Like, there was a choice on both of our sides, and you damn near forced leadership on me. So it's like, if anything, like, the reason I came to even talk about this, because you were grown enough, you were a man before I was, as far as telling me, like, no, this is not what I'm doing. I don't want to do this anymore. And to the point where you made me look at you and be like, wait, okay, I got to take you seriously. And as a kid, to be like talking to another, your brother, and then make me take you seriously as a young man, like, that's big. That's you were well above your age with that. You were above and beyond. And then for me to be your parent, like, I wasn't ready to be a parent. I had some skill sets because I was just a smart kid, but nonetheless, I wasn't ready to be anyone's parent. And there are no classes to be dad, like. And also, like, who raised me is an important thing, because how I decide to raise someone else is going to be a large part of basically what I learned being raised. So if I had a pretty terrible upbringing, then chances are I'm not going to do anything but pass on some of those bad traits and bad behaviors. Um,
So what was that like, though, Ray? I just got to ask, because here it is, 18. I was at 18 when I became a father, and I wasn't ready. I thought I was, and then once I did, reality set in. But here it is with yours. Your story is much more different, but it's still at the same time not ready to be a father. That's the role that you was playing in Fahmarr's life. Usually, brothers get in an argument, they'll go run to mom or dad and be like, "Hey, Ray, he was doing this to me over here." Y'all didn't have that. That wasn't there. The structure was you and him. What was life like with that? And I mean, I guess you just figured it out as you went along. But how has that played into, like, your communication even up until this day?
um, well, Famar Famar didn't grow up like I grew up. And so early on, me and Famar had real issues, because I grew up in a situation where I grew up with my coaches. So criticism was heavy, and constructive criticism is the most useful, but not all of it was constructive. But I had dealt with being criticized heavily throughout my own history, because I played sports. So, like, if you do something wrong in sports, they own you that moment, and it's like, and they barking at you. It's what the hell are you doing? Da, 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 da. And whereas parenting is not that. It's not that all the time. That's not how you should always approach it. Because a lot of things should just be conversations. But for me, I was raised by coaches, so I was used to people barking at me. So how I initially came off was I barked at them. Like, if there was an issue, I'm rah, rah, rah. And that's not necessarily how you need to handle everything. But Famar told me that afterwards, as he got older. And it was just like, you don't gotta, like, because me, as they say, like, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so that was
Oh, that's good.
so that
Yeah.
was kind of my approach with everything. I was hitting
Yeah.
everything with a hammer, because that was my toolbox, as far as I was concerned. And but like through growing up and, you know, having these conversations, I got better with it. But early on, my whole thing, I was terrible. Verbal abuse, that was me. Like, what the hell your dumb ass doing? Like, what? That was stupid. Like, and so, but as I got older, I learned to criticize the action, not the person.
Right.
But see, as an 18-year-old, that wasn't how I moved. And so that was to Fahmarr's detriment, but to my kids' advantage. And so I tell Fahmarr, if you improve my son's life just a little bit, like, you a hero to me. And so all the things that I learned by taking care of Fahmarr and just the feedback he's given me since is helping me be a better parent to my father, my son, or be a better father to my son. And so that's more than any movie credit he would ever need, as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's that's big, that's huge in my life. And, if nothing else, like, you can get an Oscar for that. Like, hell, that,
Sure.
that was enough for me. Like, and I just hope that people in my family could find, like, I guess, jewels in there, like, where they can grab onto and hold on to, because that's really what made me me. Like, y'all were the reason that I end up the way that I am. And so the reason I'm being celebrated is because of the things I went through with you all and the person that I became because of it. So no, I don't fault you or feel any type of way, resent anyone in my family. Or if anything, a lot of times I feel guilty because I have 7 siblings and I'm only looked at as having one. And then I had custody of my younger sister and one of my brothers. But then it's almost like they're not talked about. And so I can see sometimes where they find themselves, like, they feel like background noise. Well, yes, they're part of the family, but only because folks only know it because they have my last name, and not like they even um, acknowledge them in a sense. And so, I mean, that's a whole nother story. But
That's a lot of guilt to carry around, my man.
ah,
I can feel it. I can feel it. It feels like there's you got the weight of the world on your shoulders. I mean, you got the success. You stepped in. You did so many good things, and you're very cognizant of what's going on, and that you know. I admire you so much, man, because I can't imagine what it would be like to be in that position, to do what you did at such a young age, and I know that's got to be probably hard to be in their position as well. Seeing that, their brother, he got success, was the football player, got the movie coming out now. So, but that's it, man. These experiences, they make us who we are, and that love, it'll happen. It's just communicating. What's communication like with you guys now?
I mean, I communicate, but it's easy for me because
There
I'm
you go.
a lot the success to talk about. Like, it's hard for to be happy for someone when you're struggling. Like, I know because I've been struggling, and it's hard for me to be like, congratulations, wonderful, wonderful. Like, I can't. It's hard for me to be at your celebration in pain, and and that's a lot of the times how I feel because there's so many people in pain, and I'm in the moment of a celebration moment. And so one would say, well, you can't miss your moment thinking about how everybody else feels. But then at the same time, the reason that I felt like I had my moment is because I cared about how everybody else feels. And so
There you go.
is the thing that makes me successful is technically what people want me to let go in order to be happy.
Hey, Ray, I was just going to ask you, man, when I think about your story and where you are today and how you're working through things that, family of origin issues from your childhood, even today, and, you can, I tell people all the time, we can deal with our pain or our pain will deal with us one way or another. It's going to come out. What's inside of us is going to come out. And so, man, what I would really love to hear about is the power of hope. I say all the time, the best is yet to come. And, at Clemson, they say best is the standard. But I say the best is yet to come, and for me personally, it's my faith in Jesus Christ that for those who hope in the Lord, they will mount up on wings like eagles. Talk about the power of hope, hope for a better and a brighter day, hope for peace, for happiness, for fulfillment, for joy, and just hope. I mean, I know in the Bible it says hope deferred makes the heart sick. And there are a lot of children that are in the custody of DSS and foster care. Man, they need some hope. And I know you're bringing hope to people. And there are a lot of daddies out there that are displaced and not a part of their children's lives, not because they've chosen, that are desperately wanting to be a part of their children's lives. Can you talk about the power of hope, just hope for a better and a brighter day?
Okay. I read a quote, not a quote, but a post that Fahmarr wrote not too long ago. And there was a post from his quote in the Players Tribune article not too long ago that we did. And he talked about, having faith and waking up every day with the thought process that today will be better than yesterday. And even moreover for me, like I believe in the balance of life in a sense. So just as much bad as there is in the world, there's even more good. And because what I try not to do is get too caught up for most people, because most people, everybody's not Team Jesus. Me, I'm Team Jesus. Like, so, I can find faith knowing that, hey, if I die today, tomorrow's a better day. I'm gonna be good. Like, I'm make it through life. Like, there's nothing that can stop me because I've already, given over my life to God and Christ, and I'm on my way as far as that's concerned. Um, but for the people who can't find hope and faith, if you think about it, nothing lasts forever. Not even you. Not your lifetime. Everything will too fade. And with your kids, if you can't see your children, like eventually, God willing, they'll grow up and they'll be adults and they'll come to a place like we all do, where we can reflect, and then we can kind of get perspective. Because right now, to speak to the dads that can't see their kids, like your kid might resent you because they don't have your perspective. And so what you could do more so than anything, and what has helped me a lot, is write down what you would want to say, and you can keep a journal. And if these days that go by that you don't see your kids, or that you're not feeling the greatest in life, you write those things down. Write what you want to say to them. Write how you feel. And when the day comes, you can present that to them. Like, hey, I was thinking about you all these days. These are the moments. Because if you don't believe that, time heals all, if you don't believe that, days will get better, then I'm not sure, um, why would you continue to want to move forward? But I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you, like, things have been rough and tough for me. Even with this movie, this was a 14-year process. This didn't happen yesterday. I've been through a lot. You will go through a lot. That's life. It's a tough life for everybody. But you can't make it to the other side giving up. There's no winning in giving up. There's no reason to stop fighting, because that's the only way you lose. It's similar to buying stock. Like, if you buy it, if you hold on to it, and it's a good company, things will be okay. It'll eventually turn around. You just got to stick with it. And the same thing with parenting. If you can't see your kids, just, continue to fight. It's gonna be hard. It's not easy. Hell, my dad, he fought. Much as I talked mess about him growing up, much as I resented him, he was backdoor. He was fighting, and he was battling his own demons. And eventually, your kids will get to a point where they know what's up, where they can make decisions on their own. And you can wait for that time, but as you wait for that time, you continue to fight, you continue to have faith, continue to move forward, because what else you gonna do? And then the opposite answer, what else you gonna do? Yes, you could quit, But then what does that get you? You're not in a better place because of it. You can sit in sorrow, but that won't get you far either. Like, you can have your moments, and I'm not saying not have your moments, because a lot of us just need to grieve and let some
Yep.
stuff chest. But you got to come out of that, right out of that, and know that the fight is still ahead of you, because it's still not easy. It's not going to be easy even for the most successful people. They have problems too. And me knowing that, I used to always tell myself somebody has it rougher than you. Like, somebody got a rougher sled than you. And if they continue to move forward, so could you. Like, you don't got to find faith in heroes. You can find faith. You can be your own hero. Like, because you can be the greatest factor in your story. You can be your Superman. And if you think of yourself as a hero during those times, because that's essentially what you are, especially if you're a father, you need to think of yourself as a hero. And it might be, you watch plenty of shows where the hero seems like he's done, like he's down and out. But just like in the movies, like, if you continue to fight, you're gonna have your moment, and you can get stand on that top of that mountaintop and tell everybody about how you got there, tell everybody your story. But if you quit, we'll never be able to talk about you. And I want to talk about you. I want to talk about all the wins. I want to talk about all the success stories that you will eventually have. And I know you will, because I do. I have my own success stories, and yes, I've been through my own things. I was just telling you, like, I was crying less than a week ago, a couple of days ago. But I know that it gets better, and then continue to get better. And you just got to wake up each day, have faith in the Lord and God and whoever you believe in, and know that it gets better. That would be my thing, because I had plenty of times where I had cried in the dark in the bathroom. Like, I was just in the bathroom crying to God, please change my circumstances, please change my situations. But after I got up, that's I gave it up to God, and after I cried, I got up, and I had to move. I had to go put in that effort, because God will take those steps with you, but you got to take some steps too. It's not just a single-sided thing. He's not just gonna carry you. But if you walk with God, you're gonna make it. You'll be okay.
Got two more quick things for you, real quick, Ray, before we let you go. You was talking about at 18 how you wasn't really ready to be a father, and going through that experiences, I'm curious. When I wasn't ready to become a father neither at 18, and then by the time I had my second, my third, my fourth child, I was a little bit more seasoned and I knew what was coming. How did that prepare you for when your son was born, and what was that like after everything that you had experienced? Did that scare you becoming a father? What was that experience like for you?
No, I was excited about being a dad because I had practice,
There
and
you go.
most
Yeah.
people didn't get the chance to practice. And since I had the opportunity to practice, I was better equipped than most. And then I grew up not so great, so I had been used to dealing with small babies, because I dealt with my siblings when they were smaller, and so I was prepared in that way. And then because I had Fahmarr, I was prepared for, I guess, a little bit later on in life with the responsibilities that come with being a dad. But it was more so the whole inadequacy thing, because it wasn't that I needed to buy Fahmarr anything, or I needed to, get him the best shoes. Because at the end of the day, if I loved him, if I told him I loved him every day, and I did my best to take care of him, then that's all I can do. That's all he can ask for me. Even if he wanted 2 million things, that's you just gotta ask for him. But that don't mean you're gonna get them. But if I did my best to take care of him, that's the important part. That's the most important part. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that, and that's what I learned with taking care of him, and then moving on to my son. That it's not about what you can or can't do as far as the material things are concerned. It's the love and the attention you show while you're there. It's the value that you can bring, and it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. If you can read a book with your kid, that's more. That's worth more than all the money you can ever hand them. Because if you just the whole concept of teaching them how to fish, um, and if you do that, and if you add value, that's your only job as a father, is to make you one to have your kids have a better life than you. That's the goal, not necessarily the job, but the goal is to have a better life than you, and then do your best to be the best dad you can. And when I wasn't ready, it was simply because um, I had never done it before. It was a new thing for me. And so one of the things I did go do is I started talking to people who had already had kids. um, Go find the knowledge, because there's knowledge out there. One of my big mentors, Jeff Davis, he has 7 kids. And one of the things he told me, because I can remember one of the probably the most influential advice you can give as a father is right here. So listen. Um, Fahmarr was doing terrible in school. I didn't understand why I was pissed off. I was about ready because I was a barker, and I was about ready to beat him. And so I went to Jeff and I was like, what should I do? And then he asked me, he was like, Ray, he's doing terrible at school, but have you helped him with his homework every day? I was like, nah. Have you went to any of his parent-teacher conferences? No. Have you ever, have you reached out to a tutor or tried to get him help in any of the subjects that he's struggling in? No. You said, well, sounds like you haven't done everything you're supposed to do. So until you do everything you're supposed to do, don't talk to him, because he's a kid. He's taking a lead from you. And so it's been that he's following you. Until you are A-okay doing what you're supposed to do, you can't expect anything to happen as far as he's concerned. So until you get your grades together, don't talk to him about his. And it's one of those situations. And so just dealing with problems, I've always learned to start with myself. And it was my mentors that gave me the knowledge to try to be a better parent, because I went out and I seek knowledge or whatever. And you seek and you should find. And so I went out and I tried to discover ways to be a better parent. And it's the same thing with the legal system. And if you're going through things trying to get your kids back, it's you got to go out there. You got to get opportunity comes from effort. So if you got to put in a whole bunch of effort. The system is not built for dads. It's unfortunate. For a lot of us, this is not just a reality we came to today. So we knew about this yesterday. So we got to get over it. If that's how we feel, we can do what we can to fix it. Yes, but continue to move forward, understanding that your kids are the most important thing, and continue to put in that effort, because it's important. Eventually, you'll get congratulated or acknowledged for your effort. And so you got to put that effort in, because if you don't put that effort in, you still don't have your kid and you ain't shit. Like, because that's typically how it's looked at. So you're not gonna win that way. So it's best to go and fight. And that's been my whole thing moving forward in life. Is I'm gonna just continue to fight and strive to be the best version of myself, while being the best version of myself by being me. And so we all have our faults and shortcomings, and that's life. I mean, deal with it. So we have to work from that point and know that we can get better each day, and that's all we need to do is get better each day. Don't make the same mistakes over and over again. But I got plenty of time for all this craziness. I do. I have. I can talk about just life in general and all my trials and tribulations. But I mean, in order to talk about them, you got to work through them, and this is me. I'm working through my stuff too. So you're not
There
out
you
alone. Like we all got stuff we got to work on, and then we all got things that we've done that we might not be proud of. There's things I said to my son's mother that I'm not proud of. There, I've called her out of her name, and I can say that, and I'm not saying it to celebrate it or just say that was terrible on my part, because that's a childhood trauma that if my son can remember, I put him through, and that's not right. And so just move knowing that you're being watched. If that doesn't make you want to be on your best behavior, then move as if you know that the only way you're gonna get to success is to be the best version of you. Like if you that's it's not gonna happen no other way. You got to go out there and do it. Um, yeah, man. I've 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 cried many nights, and I struggled through many things, but it's important that you keep going. Um, and I want my message to be that as well. Just continue to keep moving. Like,
There's strength in that, man. There's strength in crying. That shows that you care. I think us men have been conditioned to think that when you cry that there's something wrong with it. I've spent a many a nights on my bed and just crying and releasing that, and that makes you feel better, really, because you're dealing with what's going on. Trying to hold that in, it just becomes toxic. But man, just the vulnerability and humility of being able to come on here and talk about these issues in a public setting, you can't underestimate how many fathers out there this is going to show them. And guys, if you're going through problems, maybe it's not exactly similar to Ray's, but that process of having to work through it'll make you so much of a better person. Ray, before we get out of here, though, I got one last question. I'm going to name a few different people in this when I do it, though. When it pertains to your mom with this and this being a focus of that, what's something that you could let her know while you're getting your story out? Maybe I don't know what her feelings might be seeing her story out there in the public, but what's something that you could say to her to let her know how you feel about what's going on with this?
as far as my mom, I love you, like, through it all. Like, there's nothing you can do to make me stop loving you. There's nothing you've done that'll make me stop loving you.
There you go.
Um, and so if I was talking to her, it's hard for me to say that I understand the pressure that she's under, because I don't. Um, I just know the pressure that I put on myself, and if it's anything similar to what like she's going through, I know it's a lot of pressure, and I want to thank you for dealing with everything, for going through this for me, in order for me to tell my story. And I had to tell parts of your story that are not just the only parts of your story, and I do apologize for that being the only part of your story that people know. But moving forward, I'll continue to do my best to tell you the entire story, because you've been through things too, and just like my father and like myself, we've all been through stuff. And I forgive you. I've always have forgave my mom. I never resented her for some reason or another, because she's my mom, and she has her own struggles. She wrote a story about her life. I got through 4 pages, and it's a lot of pain in there. I couldn't even continue to keep reading, because there was a lot of things that she'd been through that I didn't know about, but it hurt so much that I couldn't read it. And I still have a lot of the things that she wrote to me, but I can't read them because of the pain. And I apologize.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I apologize because I'm not man enough yet to deal with it. Like, I gotta man up and deal with it, but it's so much, and I have burdens on my own heart, and I apologize for not just going there with you, just talking about the things that you've been through, because I know if it's anything like me, like, you're in a lot of pain, and you tried to share it, and I was unable to accept it, and I apologize, and I'm sorry, but I love you, and I will always love you. And I mean, that's something I would say to my mom if I was.
I think this is really important, Ray, because a lot of the one of the biggest situations that we deal with in this community is known as parental alienation, where one parent keeps the other parent out of the child's life, but that child's always going to love their parent. No matter what happens, they're going to love their parent, and they're going to want that relationship. And just to see, and hear this, I think it's so powerful. And I would hope that any of the parents out there that are watching this right now take that in, the love that you have for your mother, and to get behind the scenes and find out why some of the actions have caused the reactions that we experience in life. So I appreciate that. Two more people I want to mention, though. I know we talked about your mom. How about to your siblings? What's something you could say to your siblings right now?
I love all y'all. It was parts of the movie. It was one particular scene where I came into my college dorm room and I only hung up a picture of Fahmarr as if he's the only one. And I know they have their own struggles. I know they're going through a lot. And I don't know, to some, especially my younger siblings, I don't want them to ever feel like I don't care as much about them as I do about Fahmarr, or that um, they're less than because it's me and Fahmarr, or that this movie is highlighting, or that I love them any less. Like, cause if you thought about it, if you looked at it, it's almost like, yeah, I got a favorite, and that's not the case. Um, so as far as they're concerned, I would hope and ask that they come with me on this journey, because I feel like LeBron. I want everybody to eat. Like, I want my whole
There you
team,
go.
like
I
everybody,
like that.
all my friends. Like, I want everybody to be able to take the trip because we decided to. And the same with my siblings. Like, I would want you all to not feel burdened by my success. Um, because a lot of the times that's when my sister, um, she's been one of the more successful ones of my sister right above us. Like, I understood, like, when she was doing great things, I was congratulating her, but I can understand how it made me feel. Like, I was like, yeah, I need to do something big. I need to do something big. But at the same time, I've also had other things in my life that I can, shine light on, that, hey, I did do this, and hey, I did do that. But for them, it's not so much the case. And then, like, my sister Sabra, the one that's right above me, she took custody of two of my siblings before I did. Um, and but she wasn't celebrated because of it. And I don't know how that might make her feel, but I would possibly feel some type of way. It's like, wait, I did this and I had two kids when I was up there when I went to school, and you only had one, but yet you get a movie, and I don't get, nobody ever mentions me. And so I guess to my siblings, I'm gonna call y'all the unsung heroes. You've always been there in my life. I love you all, every single one of you. You helped make me me, and if you continue to be my siblings, we gonna all make it. I'm sure of it. Like, 'cause I'm not gonna let nobody fall by the wayside. That's my plan. And so, if you want to jump off the boat, I'm still throwing ropes and rafts, and we gonna get it together. So, to my siblings, we gonna be okay. Don't even worry about it. I don't even gotta apologize to y'all, 'cause I'm gonna make sure y'all okay.
There you go. Well, man, this will be the last and final one, but staying true to the name up here. I know you mentioned earlier there was a lot of things you wish you could have said to your father after he passed away. I want to give you that opportunity now, and
You, you just want to make me cry some damn more. All right, look. Oh man, Raheem. That's my father's name, Dad. Growing up, I never really had a whole bunch of conversation for my dad as Dad. Like, I called him by his first name to be disrespectful because I was a thickhead kid. Um, and it wasn't right. Like, so I'm gonna apologize to all the kids who's out, for all the fathers out there who getting called by their first name because their kid don't know no better. That's all that is. We just didn't know no better. I had no right, because I used to call him by his first name. I never used to call him Dad, like Raheem, and it was disrespectful. And I'm sorry. That's what I would say to him. I apologize. I was dumb. I was young. I didn't know any better. And for a lot of dads, um, and since I'm a dad now, like, I can admit I didn't know any better, and I make my own mistakes, and you made your own mistakes. But, like, I would feel terrible if my son treated me the way I treated my dad for some of the things that I've done. And my dad has been more of a man than I have up until this point. And I say that because he still he still called me every birthday, although I was being a resentful ass teenager and a young man. Like he still called. He still would reach out. He'd still try to help. And when I was living with him in Vegas, he put me out. And I was like, you bastard. After all my life, you ain't even really taken care of me, and now you want to put me out. And my mom went back and talked to him, and then this is a conversation I didn't have with him. It was like, he wants you to be successful, and if you're comfortable, you're not gonna want to do nothing. And he didn't. He said you look too comfortable. He said he used to come home and you used to be in there. He didn't want you in there because just for you to be successful, he wanted you outside the door. And this is as a grown up. Like I'm 26, 27. Like yeah, you gotta get out. And I was pissed because I was like, through my whole life, your punk ass didn't ever take care of me, and then now you want to put me out. But even then, in that moment, he cared. He cared enough that he wanted me to be successful, and he knew I wasn't gonna do it if I got comfortable. I wasn't gonna go out there and be who I can be, to be the best version of myself sitting in the house. And so he put me out the house. And a lot of things that you do for your kids, they will see as detrimental and right now. And that's okay. You just have to live with it. That's part of being a dad. It sucks. But for my dad, like I didn't know. And this is just me apologizing. And it's unfortunate. I gotta apologize to a casket. Like, don't get to the point where you gotta. If you can apologize to a human, like if you can apologize now, apologize. Because at the end of the day, especially if you don't know a story, and just like your kids don't know your story, it's gonna be okay. Like, eventually, it just keep the lines of communication open, and you can eventually tell your story. And for my dad, I apologize for not hearing your story, for not being, responsible enough to seek out that kind of knowledge. And I'm sorry. Like, as not much. I mean, I could do at this point, and it's unfortunate, but I cried about it, as you. I mean, if you see me, um, but thank you. Like, thank you. Thanks. Thanks for creating me. Thanks for me. Thanks for calling me your son. Thanks for you giving me my name, and I appreciate you.
Ray, I can tell you right now, your dad's looking down from heaven, man, and he is so proud of you. I'm going to tell you, if there was somebody to be proud of, you and Fahmarr, both, all of your family. Man, you've made so much out of yourself, and you've got a story right now. And even you being brave enough to come and share this right now and to help other fathers, to help other kids that have been through this situation. I'm going to tell you, that's one proud father up there, man. And I think he's going to hear this. I really do. And I appreciate all of those words and everything that you've done and coming here. I'm going to let Mr. Gallman close out the show. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I hope we get to talk some more later on down the road, because I really just appreciate you so much. John?
I'm kind of at a loss for words, to be honest with you. But what comes to mind is that he heals the brokenhearted. And for those of us that are brokenhearted, there is always hope for a brighter and a better day. And man, you mentioned Jeff Davis. I think I saw a picture of Fahmarr with Judah, with the twins, with Jeff Davis's boys that
Yeah.
played. I think I saw it on Facebook, like on my news feed recently. And just you're reaching out to Jeff Davis to give you coaching, and the coaching that you're providing other people now. And
Right.
I'm blown away. I know Clemson, having been associated with the football team at Clemson for 4 years myself, and I know there's a family at Clemson. But beyond that, man, Ray, man, I just respect and appreciate what you're doing to help people today. I respect and appreciate your courage to be able to deal with the past and to be able to move forward. And I'm going to end with what I say all the time because I believe it. Here's the other thing I think of. We all make mistakes. We've all made mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. But our past does not define us. It does not define us. As long as we keep putting one foot in front of the other, there's always hope for a better and a brighter day. And I know that this is true in Ray's life. I know it's true in all of his siblings' life. I know it's true in his mother's life. And Eric Carroll, I know it's true in your life. That the best is still yet to come. God bless you guys. Eric Carroll, I love you. I appreciate what you're doing. Ray, I appreciate your courage, your tenacity, and bravery. Your bravery to be able to tell it like it is and keep it real with us. Thank you so much. I pray that God's blessings will be upon you guys. And thank you for loving and serving and caring. I'm going to end with Dr. Martin Luther King, who's my mentor through books. Anyone can be great because anyone can serve. God bless both of you. The best is yet to come.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We are fighting for the rights of parents worldwide. If you want to help support our podcast and for us to continue this mission, please join us at patreon.com/dadtalktoday. You will find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, CloutHub, Parler, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, the podcast app, Google, Apple Podcasts. We're a little bit of everywhere. And guys, every time you like and subscribe, you help us continue this mission. Thank you, and we will see you next time.